So I'm going to take this opportunity before this first exam to get on my soapbox and talk about something that's very important to me, and hopefully it's important to you as well. So what I want to talk about is the foundation of higher learning. This is, in my opinion, what everything that we do on this campus is based on. And what I'm talking about is doubt. And when I say doubt, I mean doubt everything. Doubt everything that comes out of my mouth, doubt everything that comes out of your friends' mouths, your other professors, your classmates, yourselves. Doubt everything, all right? Doubt everything that people say. And what I'm talking about is kind of cultivating this healthy skepticism. What I mean by that is I want you to doubt the truth of any empirical claim that lacks evidence. So when I present something in this class, I try to provide you with evidence. And you should expect that from me. I'm going to expect it from you as well. I'm going to demand that you give me evidence in your exams. That if you make a claim, an empirical claim, you better be able to back it up. And I want you to do that in other classes. I want you to do that when you're having an argument with your friends. Demand evidence, all right? Don't just accept something because somebody said it or because you read it on the internet somewhere. Demand evidence. Unhealthy skepticism, that happens, right? Sometimes it goes too far, right? And what I'm talking about here is a kind of nihilism. This, where you can say, I doubt that I can know the truth. All right, now, that's not healthy because we got to accept that there is a truth out there, right? Otherwise, what's the point of anything that we're doing here? There's got to be something out there, and we can attain it. We can learn the truth, right? So, I've been mentioning empirical claims. An empirical claim is any statement whose truth can be tested through observation, right? And so it's the idea of science, that we can go out there, we can look at the physical world, or in our case, which is a cognitive science, we can look at the human mind, we can look at the way humans behave, we can look at their intuitions about language, and we can then test through observation whether an empirical claim is true or not. And in that way, an empirical claim should be treated as a hypothesis, right? And we talked about this earlier in the semester, this idea of scientific process. We create a hypothesis to explain a phenomenon, and then we test it. And so that's the idea, is that if we make an empirical claim, then there should be evidence to show that it's true, that there's support for it. So the tests have supported it, not discredited it. Non-empirical claims are a little different. They're not subject to evidence from observation. They may have sorts of evidence, but they're not observational evidence. So examples of this would be, like, for example, questions about religion, about the existence of God, or anything like that. Those are going to be theological arguments, not scientific or empirically based arguments. They're not going to be based on observation of the world in the same way. Questions about morality, ethics. Those are going to be based on ethical arguments. Those are going to be based on our ethical evidence, not based on observational evidence. A lot of politics is ideological. And again, it's not going to be subject then to observational evidence. It doesn't make any of these fields illegitimate. It just makes them different than what we're doing. So in this class, I'm demanding that your claims be empirically based and that you have evidence to support them. So, examples of non-empirical claims. I don't know why it says continued up there. I think that's from an earlier incarnation of this slideshow. So, one example would be, people should not swear in front of children. Now, you may subscribe to that point of view. As a father, I honestly do. But it's not something that we can really argue for based on observing in the world. It's not something that we can observe the world and show, yep, people should not swear in front of children. No, it's more of an ethical, moral stance. Fuck is a disgusting word, but that's just an opinion, right? We're not going to be able to go out there and say, look at fuck under a microscope and say, oh, yep, it meets all the criteria for being disgusting. Yep, fuck is a disgusting word. No, it's an opinion. It's not an empirical claim. The FCC should be abolished. Now, you could argue for that, and some of the arguments that you would make may be based on empirical claims, but in itself, the FCC should be abolished. That's not itself an empirical claim. Now, here are some examples of empirical claims. Swearing in one's L1, their first language, is more emotionally charged than swearing in one's second language, their L2. Now, that's an empirical claim, which means then that we can subject it to testing, to evidence. And in fact, there's a wealth of evidence that shows that that's actually true, and we'll explore that in one of the future modules. Another one, most people consider fuck to be the most taboo word in English. Well, we looked at this earlier in the semester, and the evidence actually shows that that's discredited. That's not a true claim. Right? It's an empirical claim, it's just a false empirical claim. Fuck you is an imperative sentence. Well, actually, again, the evidence shows that that's not true. I spent a good part of the chapter on syntax demonstrating that that's false. Bunny was originally pronounced cunny, and it changed because it was too similar in pronunciation to a taboo word. And in the module on historical swearing, we'll show that that actually is a true claim. The evidence does support that one. All right, so we've been talking about evidence. So of course, whenever you make an empirical claim, then you have to support it with evidence, and right, that's then the core of any good argument is the evidence that supports the claims, and the claims support the argument. All right, so what is our evidence? Well, data. We've been doing this throughout the semester in discussions. I've been taking data that we collected in the surveys at the beginning of the semester. You look at the data and answer some questions regarding it. Right? So that's a good source of evidence, and you are certainly welcome to use any of the data that we presented in this class in your exam to support your argument. Research. I try to present plenty of research in the videos and in the textbook for this course, and you're certainly welcome to use that research. Or seek it out yourself, further research, and I actually encourage you to do that as well. I think that's great. And if you want to conduct your own research, that's also perfectly legitimate to support a claim that you're making in your paper. Examples, there are even times when just simply a good example can support a claim. So, for example, when we're looking at syntax and we make a claim about what is a possible sentence, if we can demonstrate that is a good grammatical sentence, all we have to do is provide an example to illustrate it, and that's evidence to support it. Expert opinion can also be evidence if it's a good enough expert. Now, in all of those cases, though, you've got to cite where you got your evidence from. First of all, that shows that you're a careful scholar. So if you cite your source, shows that you're a careful scholar, and I expect you to be a careful scholar if you want to get a good grade in this class. Also, citing your sources shows readers that your facts are correct, right? So then they can, it actually demonstrates, yep, this empirical claim that I'm making is true because I've got this evidence to support it, right? And so you can show where you got that evidence from, and it shows that it's true. But of course, the sources have to be credible. That's important. It can't be just some Yahoo on the internet who made the claim. You can't treat that as evidence then. And for heaven's sake, please don't use Wikipedia in your exam. I am so tired of reading exams that use Wikipedia as a source. Wikipedia is not, let me repeat, not a credible source. Do not use Wikipedia on your exam. I hope that's clear. Let readers know where they can find the information. This for me is wonderful, right? I can't tell you how many times I've read exams and I've been impressed by the students who went out there and sought good research articles that I didn't know anything about, and that way I get to learn something from your exams, and I get to find more sources and so on. It makes me a better professor in the future. That's great. So that's also an asset to readers. And then finally, of course, a good reason for citing your sources is because why? It's the rule. And if you don't, it's called what? Plagiarism, right? So cite your sources. That way you will not be plagiarizing. All right. So finally, cite your sources and use credible sources. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox now.